Good morning / evening / night, everybody. If you're new here, my name is Michelle. Today I thought it'd be nice to sort of have like more of a serious talk. Not super serious, but obviously a little bit more like one-on-one, kind of intimate. A couple months ago, I asked if anybody had any video suggestions, and this is one that has been like kind of top on my list so far, just because I've been resonating with it a lot recently. And one of them was having a small circle. Shout out to Marley Thompson for giving me that suggestion, and thank you to everybody else who's been giving me suggestions as well. I know it kind of took me a while to get around to them. I'm very sorry about that. The summer's kind of been hectic for me, so I've kind of just been like taking my time to like mentally wind down. And also I'm using this external mic today. I've kind of been having troubles with my other mic, so hopefully this makes the audio a little bit more bearable and smooth on the ears. I don't know. Anyways, today I want to touch on the subject of friends, making friends, not having a lot of friends, having a small circle, and just the hardships of adult relationships. And even if you're not an adult, this is something that I think is a common struggle, especially for people who they strive for more meaningful relationships. This is definitely something that I've always struggled with. So growing up, I was always like shy, more on the shy side. So I've had like pretty small circles growing up. I've never been one to really value surface level relationships. Not that I wasn't open to communicating with people, I just wasn't open to making friendships that I knew weren't going to be long lasting. I sort of just like stuck with my group, and it just made it a lot easier for me to find peace in that. And when I was in high school, that didn't really bother me. It's always been like the way that I was. Lately though, I've been really feeling the change in the dynamic of my friends and my friendships. My circle has definitely gotten a lot smaller, not due to any like drama or any big fight or whatever. It's just been one of those things where I'm moving towards a different direction in my life, and so are they, and it's just been really hard to stick together. I really need to put a lot into it for me to really consider it a real friendship. It's not to say that there's anything wrong with the people in my life that have come and gone. It's just that I'm not really the same person that I was a year ago. It's not that I've like did this 180, like I changed. It's just like I have sort of a better idea of what I want from life, and it's really hard to always have this big group and maintain all these different relationships. I definitely do still have so much love and so much respect for those people that are in my life and are not really that big of a part of my life anymore. You know, there are moments where I'm like very nostalgic about the people that used to be my friends, and it's weird to think that I'm living a life without them now. I think one of the biggest things I learned about friendships and making friends and just maintaining friends is that meaningful relationships and genuine relationships, no joke, are hard work. I think that's something that I didn't realize growing up as a kid, because it was just so easy to always have these friends with me throughout high school because they were there every single day. Not to say that it's like a convenience thing, it's not like that whatsoever, but it definitely was just a lot easier for me to maintain those relationships when there was some sort of like thing that was keeping us together. Now that I'm older, and all of my friends are obviously older as well, it's really difficult to make a lot of time for things, especially when you are growing up and you are trying to figure yourself out and figure your life out and figure all these things out. You really need to prioritize. I think I've been pretty lucky these past couple years. I have had so many good people in my life, and I still do. These are real friendships that I love and I cherish. Honestly, the number is very small. When I first looked at it, it was just kind of like, oh my god, like I only have a few friends I consider my really close friends. But then the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not having a lot of friends. I'm okay with not being this social butterfly that's always knowing people wherever they go. Like, I think if I were to do that, I would feel very empty. I'd feel very drained. And that's not to say that I don't like socializing. I love going out. I love talking to them for the moment, but I don't keep them around for the sake of knowing people. I can meet them for a night, have a good time, speak to them, learn about them just for a bit, and then not ever see them again. And I'm okay with that because I know that I have the few people that I want to keep forever. In this day and age, it's so easy to be like, hey bestie, that's my best friend, blah blah blah, but like throwing that term around is kind of empty. I was having this conversation with one of my best friends recently, and we were kind of going through the same thing. She's like, yeah, I'm going through a lot of growing pains. I think I'm growing up. I think I'm not with what I used to be with. The people who were in my life back then, I've just kind of grown out of them, and that's okay. That's fine, it happens. And I'm like, yeah, I feel the exact same way. And I think part of that has to do with just knowing yourself a lot more. I started going to therapy recently. One of the things I've sort of got out of therapy is boundary setting and non-negotiables. That's not something that I used to always have when I was making friends. I didn't have these, boundaries in place to sort of be selective with the people that I chose to have in my life. I was sort of like, oh, this person's fun, so like I'm gonna keep on like being their friend. And that's what happened basically in my younger years. I sort of just clung to the people that I had fun with, not who had similar values to me, who had similar definitions of respect. And when you're older, those things start to come out. You sort of realize that, oh, maybe this is a friendship that was good for this part of my life, but I'm not in that part of my life anymore, and I have to move on now. I always go back to this saying. I'm definitely gonna say it wrong. I'm definitely gonna butcher it. It goes, you can meet somebody today who has better intentions for you than someone that you've known for like 10 years. And honestly, I would change that a bit. I would say you can meet someone today who is better for you and your growth than somebody that you've known for 10 years. Because back then, I wasn't setting those boundaries. I wasn't looking out for red flags in relationships and friendships. When you're older and you have to be more selective about your time, these are things that are really important. It's not something that you can overlook anymore. When I look at these friendships that I'm holding on to for the sake of time, because I've known these people for so long, I'm like, if I met a friend and I just met them now who treated me the way that they treated me with the boundaries that I have, would I still be friends with that person? And if the answer is no, I really have to look in myself and think about what is the next step for this relationship. Is something that I should let go, or something that is worth fighting for? Because sometimes things don't change. And when things don't change, it's sort of on me because I'm the one that's deciding to stay in the relationship. But the thing is, when you're young and you make all these friends, you don't know how to communicate those things. And so these behaviors and these habits, they kind of are left unchecked and they carry out into adulthood. And you look back and you're like, oh, why did I even let this slide? That's something that, yes, it's bad that happened, but you don't have to dwell on it. I think in adult friendships, you'll sort of see two things that happen. You will grow apart from the people whose values don't align with yours anymore, and you'll have people whose values align with you, but you can't really see them that often because they're busy and they're working, and things are just different. I have one of my friends I consider a really good friend of mine. I see her probably maybe once or twice a year. I think our values are very much aligned. Truth is, she's busy, I'm busy, and life just happens. And you'll have other friends who you are able to see all the time, and their values will align with yours. And for the most part, that's not going to be a lot of your friends. Maybe you'll get lucky if you have one friend that's like that. Adult relationships are sort of weird in that way. I'm a strong believer in you become the people that you surround yourself with. When I heard that, I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, obviously, your friends influence you. It's not something that's a new revolutionary concept, but if you think about that realistically, that is a lot of control that you have over your life. You have so much say in who you become just based on the people that you decide to surround yourself with. And although that's kind of scary to think about, that's also kind of amazing that with the people that you associate with, you can be what you want to be. If you have friends that are driven, then you will in turn be a driven person. If you have friends that are terrible, they don't respect boundaries, they're miserable, you will be a miserable person. Regardless if you intend to swap energy, you end up doing it anyways. As strong as your boundaries are, it will always happen. Honestly, for me, I would say that I can internalize a lot of other people's emotions most of the time. So when I'm around people who don't have good intentions, they don't have good values, it's really easy for me to take that on because I want to be very connected to the people around me. I know know that's one of my weaknesses. As much as I can, I really try to control what types of people that are around me. I feel like energy will always like eventually even itself out or match itself out. Not to be like that spiritual girl, like energy. I do believe in energy, like very strongly. I think there's two things mainly that can control your life. One is your mindset, and another one is your environment. A lot of other things you don't have control over. Once you recognize that those are the two things that you have control over, and those are things that can really change your life, it's kind of profound almost. It's like, I really do have control over my life, and that's very comforting to know. I think sometimes we forget that there are big things that we can control because we're always so obsessed with things that we can't control. For example, other people's emotions and, something that happened in the workplace, something that happened at school. Those are all things that you can't control most of the time. And so that's why I really am so selective, especially these days, now that I know what my boundaries are, not just romantic, but friendships as well. I don't really entertain anything that goes against that. I don't believe in settling when it comes to romantic and platonic friendships. I think we should look at friendships the same ways that we look at relationships. Obviously, there are differences. I think in friendships, for me at least before, I did ignore a lot of red flags. I ignored a lot of mistreatment because I was like, oh, I need friends, but I don't need a boyfriend, so I can be selective. But with friends, I want to have friends. I'm not going to be as uncompromising about these boundaries. I don't think that's the way that we should look at friendships. I think we should look at it as a commitment. It's a commitment with somebody who shares the same values, the same energy, and the same levels of respect as you do. And honestly, it's really easier said than done because in my adulthood, I really struggle making friends. It's hard to get myself to make a long-lasting friend because I just think about it and I'm like, this is going to be a lot of work. It could be worth it, but also it's a big risk because you are also putting your energy on the line when you open yourself up to different people. And that can be really scary. It's a big vulnerability thing. You have to be there mentally because if you're not, then you'll end up picking people that are reflective of how you feel during that time. If you're in a down state and you think you're worthless, you will entertain people who treat you like you're worthless. If you know yourself and you're at a good place, in a good headspace, then you will end up gravitating and just keeping these people in your life that make you feel the way that you believe yourself to be. I kind of said that weird, but I think you know what I mean. I know that was kind of a lot. Hopefully a lot of you guys find comfort in knowing that adult relationships are going to be hard, but in the end, when you find somebody that is worth it, it is so worth putting in the time and energy into. You're honestly not alone if you're having difficulties making friends. One thing that I will say is to never settle in a friendship, in any relationship, but especially in friendships, because I think that's something that a lot of people overlook. Don't worry about having so many friends and having all these friends that you can call up. Be selective and be picky and be uncompromising with your boundaries when it comes to meeting new people and keeping the people that you have in your life, because this is important. This is what can really help you grow. It's not what you see in the movies and you have all these people that you go out with, you party with. Like, it's not like that at all. And I think we've been sold this idea that that's what it's going to be like, especially in your 20s. And so that's what I wanted to end off with today. Please don't be hard on yourself. It's a lot more common than you think. You just need to know yourself. You need to know that you are capable of making long-lasting, meaningful relationships. So I hope that that kind of helped out a bit. That's all that I really wanted to say to you today. I will see you next time, and I hope you have a great day.